elevate your life? Join Hareldau on the Being Elevated Lifestyle podcast, The Steps in Between. Unveiling a treasure trove of wisdom and strategies, empowering countless worldwide. Dive deeper into our blog at the Being Elevated Lifestyle YouTube channel. This isn't just another podcast, it's your blueprint for living an elevated life. Ever wondered about the steps in between those grand opening and the red carpet moments of success? Our podcast is your backstage pass revealing the steps in between. Navigating the ups and the downs of your goals, from unlocking the success series of starting an online business, creating passive income, changing your mindset, getting super fit, finding happiness and joy, and being even more productive. Don't miss out. Every Wednesday, discover tips and insights about managing life, building meaningful relations, exploring faith, and much, much more. Elevate your Wednesdays with us. Subscribe to Being Elevated Lifestyle, The Steps in Between. Your journey to an elevated life starts now. Welcome to the first segment of Steps in Between podcast. I'm your host, Hareldau. Thank you for joining me on this new adventure. I've been dreaming of this moment where I get to launch this idea that I've been having for a very long time. It started many months ago. I had an idea for a podcast and I was like, what do I talk about? So I came up with a list of ideas and I would go through them, mark them off. And finally, I came up with something that gripped my heart. And I got really excited about it. And I felt like I can do this for quite some time. And so I decided and settled on the steps in between as my topic and my theme. What do I mean by the steps in between? You see, by choosing this title, The Steps in Between, I often think that life has a journey. It has these bright moments that we see, and all the cameras and all the eyes, and we're highlighted, and we're affirmed. And then there is the starting point, which can be just as exciting and glamorous and well known. But between the starting point and the highlight, there's a line. Some people's line ebb and flows. Some people's line flatten out. Some people's line goes all the way over. But whatever it is, we must embrace because it's our journey. And so this podcast is an opportunity for us to go behind the scenes, to share your process, your steps in between in any aspect of life, anything you want to talk about, and how it's going to be done. Today's session is going to be a monologue where I'm just talking to you and I'm sharing my heart and I'm sharing with you how I got started, why I'm starting, and invite you to come on this podcast. But eventually I want to add people to interview alongside me, whether they be one person, a group of people, varies. But I want to invite guests into my podcast. They will be friends. And I think of all the possible people that I can invite. And I start to go through my friends list, the people I know from where I grew up, my childhood, the people who went to high school with me, elementary school and primary school, the people who went to college with me in Baton Rouge, all my Toastmasters friends around the globe, all the people who have worked with me in the fitness and nutrition industry and now in the personal development area, people who I've worshiped with over the years in different cities. I think about all my family on both sides, all four sides from my grandparents, this huge family collective that I have, as well as all the people that I've met in between, along the way in life's journey. I think about the possible conversations that we could have and how we could learn from each other and grow from each other and lean in a little bit. People who have trained, people who've always wanted to be coached by me, new friends, potential friends. The list is wide. It's deep from around the world, from every country, from every continent. There's so many possibilities and so many voices that I want to bring to the forefront. And if you have a message and you want to share who you are in your process in life, in any aspect, whether it's in fitness, it's in work, it's at home with the kids, anything that you have a process that you've been through that you believe that someone else can learn from, can glean from, there's some wisdom in it, there's some wit, there's some humor, there's some excitement, there is something palatable that someone else needs to hear and can learn and take away from. I want to invite you to be part of this podcast, the steps in between. And so that's what we're going to be doing. The goal is to do one podcast a week. That is the goal. But the amount of friends and the potential friends that I have, we might just end up doing much more than one podcast a week. It just all depends. But right now, that is the goal, is to be able to do one podcast a week. So I look at it like 52 friends to interview in a year. And the year has already started. But it's an opportunity for me to reconnect with people that I haven't seen in a while, to meet new people, and to share voices from around the world, from around the globe, from around different countries, from different ethnic groups, from different walks of life, from all different perspectives and personas. We invite you to share your steps in between. And so that's what we will be doing in the Steps in Between podcast. We'll see how long it is. Some people probably got a lot to say. It probably could be 60 minutes. That's what we're hoping for at least. Or in 2 hours or an hour and a half. It just all depends. It's up to you. But it's just you sharing your heart. So if you're interested, drop me a note in the comment section. We'll present a form that you can fill out so that you can contact us, and we'll invite you to be a part of this show. If you have a friend or family member, someone you're thinking about, you can send the form to them as well. Have them look at the podcast and invite them to be a part of it. Every possible person who have something to say that is of wisdom and is of empowerment, we want to hear your voice. The Steps in Between podcast. I love communication. If you know me, you would know that I always have something to say. Anytime I'm not speaking, it's because there's a major crisis. And that crisis could be, I'm hungry, I'm really hot, really cold, or I lack the skills to communicate with whoever is around me for whatever reason. So generally, it's those three things. If you notice that I'm not communicating, it's probably one of those three things. But ever since I was a kid, anyone who knew me knew that I love to communicate. I love to express myself. That is one sign of you knowing who I am, is how clear, how chatty I am, how connected I am through my voice and through my emotions to you. And so communication is very important to me and to the people that I'm connected with. And the heart of this podcast is to give people an opportunity to share their stories, share their ups, to share their downs, share their potential, share their products if you have a product line, share your potential, share every part of you that you feel comfortable sharing. I believe in communication. I believe in being expressive. I particularly believe in honesty and being transparent. So generally, I would share much more and say much more than the average persons. A lot of times when I started to speak, people would be like, shh, you're talking too much. Shh, you're too honest. Could you imagine that? People say, I'm too honest? Because very often I would say, what is it I'm thinking and feeling right off the bat. You don't have to ask me that. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you how you make me feeling, how I am doing without even being provoked or asked. So I'm a direct communicator. If I'm not being direct, it's probably the atmosphere doesn't allow for that. Over the years, I've noticed that my communication style has changed a lot. When I was in college, and when I did my personality and my communication assessment, I was bold. I was direct. Today, I'm still bold and I'm still direct, but I'm flavored. Life has flavored me. So if you want me to unravel that process, that's probably something that I'm going to share with you today. How my personality has evolved and changed in my communication style. And today, it's much more listening. I spend much more time listening. So if I come across as being a quiet person, it's really and truly because I am observing in that environment. I've decided that I wanted to be a listener in that environment. I decided I want to exhibit my skills of empathy in that environment. So over the years, I've become much more flexible in that. So that is the process that I want to talk to you today about on this very first episode, is how my personality, my communication, my leadership skills have changed over the years. If you met me when I was a kid, my emotional state was very fluid, meaning I would just cry at a draw. If you rough me up, if you were mean to me, I would just burst into tears. I couldn't express myself. My emotions were right there. I felt everything. I saw everything. But for some reason, I didn't have the skills to express them. And over the years after, as I continued to grow through adolescence, into high school, into college, I learned how to express myself better. And when I learned how to express myself better, I discovered that I was a very direct communicator. I'll just tell you exactly, I want to tell you what I'm thinking, I want to tell you what I'm feeling in live time. I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I don't want to wait till next year. I will just tell you exactly right now, even before you ask me. So I believe that that was much more of my natural personality coming into my early development as a child. That was very emotional. As I began to observe myself as a person, which is something that I invite you to do, and I do a lot. I look at the different ages and stages of life and see how I've evolved. I recognize that I was very empathetic. My emotions, when left unchecked, they can always fall into tears. They can always be emotional when somebody hurt me. But what I was naturally of is someone who cared and cared a lot about others. I felt others' pain. I felt the depravities of man. I felt the injustices of life. I saw it. I felt it. I was overwhelmed by it. I remember particularly at Christmas time, like before I would open my gifts, every Christmas morning I would wake up every Christmas year. Every year when I was a child, I would wake up and I would think about all the little kids who did not have Christmas gifts. And I could feel my heart weeping for them. I thought about all the people who had to work on Christmas Day. I always felt that that was like just the ultimate parental injustice, that if you had to leave your family and go work at a radio station, if you were an essential service person, I always thought that that was such an injustice to the people who were left behind, particularly the kids or the parent or the adult who had to perform these duties. And so every Christmas morning I would think about those situations, because for me, Christmas was this very ideal day. It was the day when my parents were at home, when there was just this beautiful spread of lovely food. The house was decorated. There was a sense of worship. There was a sense of awe. There was a sense of thanksgiving. There was a sense of abundance. There was a sense of joy that I didn't want it to end. And I just remember thinking that every single person in the whole wide world should experience this. And if you do not experience it, my heart was just so sensitive that it would literally break for you wherever you were. And so I would wake up in the morning and I would think about those people. I would think about all the homeless kids that I saw by the market stalls and running around the streets. I would think about all the parents who had to work because of the essential workers that they were that day. I would think about all the people who were poor and suffering, and their families didn't have all what I had. They weren't able to decorate their homes. They had no gifts. They had no one to play with. Their families were broken. I would think about all of that. And literally, I could feel my heart just weeping. And what that was, was my ability to be empathetic. And so over the years, so when I was unable to express myself, that was essentially a friction between all the emotions and the empathy that I was feeling and my lack of communication skills to express them. So as I move on into a different environment in college, I learned over time how to express myself in a new environment, among different groups of people. I learned how to express myself. And when I graduated from college and I moved to Washington, D.C., one of the first things that I did is I joined a speaking club. And I chose Toastmasters so that I could practice my communication skills. So my two worlds could be married together. And so today, that has been my process. That has been the beginning of my communication challenges. And when you see me giving a beautiful presentation, when you see me giving a thoughtful presentation or impactful message, that's what is behind. It's my personality. It's my ability to communicate. It's the struggles that I've been behind. So I wanted to share that with you, that when you admire whatever you're seeing and feeling on camera, there has been a story behind it. There have been many steps in between that has allowed me the skill and ability to communicate effectively, both on camera here, in person, or from the stage in person. So I've been a work in progress. I've been a constant worker in every area of my life, working to become better, working on my humor, working on my wisdom, working on my ability to quickly respond, working on my ability to speak long periods of time, working on to slow down. All these different skills I'm constantly working on. It's a process. So today, as a communicator, as a coach, as a leader, as an author, I'm constantly working on my ability to communicate. I'm constantly working on my ability to build teams. I'm constantly working on my ability to empathize with others. And so whatever you see and experience from me, to remember that it has been a process. It is not something that just came out of the air. It's not something that just happened overnight. It has been years of toiling and practice and intention, clear intentional focus that you are experiencing. So when you open up my curtain and you peep into it, that's what you will see. You will see a young girl who's very empathetic, who felt the pain and the depravities of man and struggled to express it. So she came across as very emotional. But then you will also see, as I grew in through my maturity into college, me beginning to blossom, me beginning to flourish, me begin to shed some of that old skin and really learning how to step into myself and be comfortable as a communicator. But if you met me after I graduated, after I had that degree in my hand, after I stopped eating ramen noodles and had a nice job in the nation's capital, you would have seen me intentionally now practicing these skills. That today, this comes across some people as effortless. Some would even say flawless. And some may even say impactful. It has been years of practice. It has been years of being intentional. It has been years of focus. And so today, as a communicator, I love the fact that I can think about a thought. I can clearly express it. I can pause. I can be present in my body, and I can enjoy it. When I started practicing on how to become a communicator, it would have taken me about 3 months to write a speech, a 5 to 7 minute speech. Now today, I can do it with very short notice, with very no notice, with absolutely no notes. Just being present in my thought, being comfortable in my skin, and just presenting to you what is it I'm thinking, what is it I'm feeling, what is it that I would want to impact you with, and what change I'm trying to create in your mind. And so those number of years have just all come together in a moment for me in my communication skills. So behind the scenes of whatever you're seeing today in my YouTube channel, in my presentations, it has been a long process, a long, wonderful process. There's times where it's been very painful. There have been many people that I've worked with who have mentored me, who've taken me aside and work with me, helped me in my communication skills to write better, to speak better, to practice better. So it has been a team effort, and it continues to be a team effort, and it continues to be something that I keep working on, because you're as good as your last presentation. You're as fit as the last time you work out. You're as healthy as the last time you took care of your health. You're as evolved and educated as the last time that you've challenged your mind. So once we stop doing anything, we become as good as we were the last time we did it. And so that's why it's important to keep practicing, 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 practicing. one of the skills that I learned from my very first track and field coach, Martin Stevenson in Georgetown, Guyana. He always said to me, Hareldau, I believe that you have the ability to be a world-class high jumper, but you don't go looking for the scouts to go to college. What you do is you show up every day. You keep your head down. You do the work. You don't do the work for the scouts and go look for them. You show up at practice and you practice diligently and you get better at that. You humble yourself and you learn how to be coached. You become friendly with all the other teammates and you help them along in your journey. You be respectful and you listen and you take advice. That's your process. That's what he taught me. And that has been invaluable lessons that I've taken every aspect of my life. So whether it's a communicator, you're going to see me just putting my head down, just learning the art of communication, rather than looking for likes and affirmation and what others have to say, which is great, but that's not where I'm getting my confidence from. I want to show up. I want to keep my head down. I want to practice. I keep practicing day after day, speech after speech, month after month, year after year. And over time, I will have created this body of work. And there will be some person somewhere in the world that needs one of the messages. And when that right time comes, there will be a connection. And so I've used what I've learned from my very first track and field coach in every aspect of my life as a communicator. How to flourish, how to blossom consistently in a healthy manner. So I've used that tool. I've used what I've learned before, and it's worked, and it's of wisdom, and it's wise in my communication. I had to learn the process of how to create videos in my new Being Elevated Lifestyle channel, or to learn how to write blogs on Being Elevated Lifestyle blog. Everything I had to learn, but I'm willing to do that. There's an excitement and joy of learning new things, because as I learn new things, I can then teach others. I recognize how much I do not know and how much help I need from others. And it helps me in teaching someone else who do not know, who's stuck in a corner saying, I want to do that, but I really don't know how to do that. So those have all been parts of my process as I learn how to express myself better. And I wanted to share that with you. And I will continue to share lots of different parts of my processes in life as you share yours. So it's important, I believe, to be transparent. I believe that when we are transparent, there's someone who gleans something from us. For the most part, we often like to put people on pedestals. I think we do that because growing up, there's these age categories. There's always someone who's older than us, and we have a way of always looking up to people. We look up to them physically because they're taller than us. We look up to our parents because they're older than us. We look up to our older siblings and cousins. We look up to our older classmates and people in our school. So we just have this habit of looking up to people. And when we do that, sometimes we also put them on a shelf, as I call it, a shelf of just great admiration. Sometimes we even worship them too much. We see them, we don't see the humanity in them. We just see perfect moments. We see them driving a beautiful car and we're like, wow, look at that car, look at them driving. But we don't think about all the other aspects of their life that they're working on that is not as glamorous as them driving that car. Or we see them at a nice corner office, walking down the hallway, looking professional, looking presentable, and we're like, wow, so immaculate. They speak well, they have a nice job. Or we see them in their family's home, the perfect pictures on Facebook, on YouTube, perfect moments at Christmas or at Easter around the table or around the Christmas tree, or summertime at the beach, or springtime in the garden. We see these moments and we think that this is their entire lives. We almost idolize them. We idolize a moment and think it's everything. And so the opportunity to grow behind the curtain and to show people that we're just like them. For everything that we're great at, there's another thing that we're struggling in. For every place that we're up, there's another place that we're down. For everything that we know, there's something else that we don't know. And we present all of that ourselves to others in that transparent manner. It begins to break down these shelves that we put others on, these distances that separate us from others, these insecurities that we have from people or about people. It lowers that. It makes us much more relatable, much more humane, much more palatable, much more friendly. And so that's the attempt of this podcast, is trying to break down those barriers, break down those shelves, break down the distance, break down these moments that we see on YouTube, on Facebook, that oftentimes keep imprinted in our minds as to who a person is, what their life is, what they're about, who they are. A lot of times, these are just moments and we don't remember them. Whether they be beautiful moments or they be just pathetic, stressful moments. We oftentimes take moments and make them milestones. And so this podcast is an attempt to bridge that gap, where people get to show who they are in their process, whatever that is. It could have been in high school. They might have graduated with honors in high school, but it was a process to getting there. Let's talk about that. They might have struggled with mental illness and overcome it, but it was a process. Whatever it is that you have struggled with or you have triumphs with, we want to hear from you. We want to talk about it. We want to express ourselves. We want to share in our humanity. We want to be transparent. We want to be honest. We want to impact each other. Facebook is wonderful. Social media is fabulous. It's great marketing tools. It's great communication tools. But we don't want to live our life based on these single encounters that we have with people. I would like my legacy to be that when you think of me, you think of a whole gamut of things. You think of the highs and you think of the lows. You think about the stressful moments, you think about the triumphal moments. I would hate to know that you just think of one thing when you think of me, because that's all you saw. Because that's not the grand total of who I am and what I'm experiencing. I'm human just like you. I have struggles just like you. I have great joys just like you. I have embarrassing moments just like you. I have dreams that have failed and dreams that have triumphed just like you. And so as we come together as a community, we want to unpack all of this. So I want to invite you to come on to this show. Be a part. Bring your friends. We might even do group interviews. Bring yourself, bring your stories, bring your trials, bring your triumphs and your trials, and express yourself fully, intentionally, transparently, honestly, every aspect of your life that you feel that has some wit, some wisdom, some empowerment, some joy, some tears, some ups, some downs, whatever it is. And you want to share that. Whether you met me in high school, you met me in primary school, or kindergarten, or you met me in college, you met me in the internships, you met me in years of Washington, D.C., you're from the Caribbean, you're from Guyana, you're a member of my huge family, you grew up with me, you're in the same industry, you're an aspiring author, entrepreneur, pastor, poet, whatever you are, creator, innovator, collaborator, we need you. We need you on the steps in between podcasts. So this is my introduction to you. I thought for a moment that my very first session, I would interview a friend. I checked through my whole friend list. And I was like, I don't know who I can start. And I said, the very best friend that I can start with is myself. And let me share my process. One of my processes, because I have so many, me being a communicator, share with you, there was times where I struggled in my communication skills. And there's times where I've triumphed in my communication skills. And there's all the steps in between and the tools and the strategies that I've been using. So I continue to practice. I use Toastmasters as one of those safe places for my personal development, for my professional development. I compete. I'm a constant contestant in all different types of contests in Toastmasters. I'm a speech coach today, as well as I give presentations to churches, groups, organizations, individuals, the whole gamut, from motivational speaking to keynote speaking. So I'm available to serve you. But in order to have gotten there, there has been a process and the steps in between. It started with just my desire to be expressive, my desire to have all these emotions and all this care for others in my heart, and to find a way to be able to show it, to be able to relate to people with words rather than just with tears. And I continue to work on it when I had an opportunity to, and every new environment that I was placed in. So if you're struggling with any habit, any hang-up, feeling hopeless, one of the first things that you can do is try changing your environment. Because changing your environment creates a new stimulation. Go to walk a new street, find a new hobby, make a new friend, embrace a new way of thinking, embrace a new way of doing, embrace a new way of being. Venture out, learn a new language, learn to play an instrument, find new things to do, because oftentimes there's a process in something new. And as you start to do that, oftentimes a little pain will come up, your history will come up, and you have a chance to confront it, to work on it. Don't get a chance to just shove it under the carpet. But you would have a chance now to look it in the face. Look at fear in the face. Look at apprehension in the face. Look at intrepidation in the face and says, I want to work on you. I want to become better. I dream of being elevated. I dream of conquering the mountain. I dream of taking the hill, whatever that is for you. So it requires that practice. It requires the opportunity and it requires the practice. But you can get it done. And it is possible to embrace any new habit with hope, with happiness, with joy, with confidence. And as you do it, take someone along with you. Don't do it by yourself. I always believe having someone with you is someone to share with. You always can have these conversations like, remember when? Hey, remember when we were 12? Remember when I was 15? Remember when I was 13? See, I grew up with 3 of my sisters. So we have lots of these remembrance moments. I'm still in contact with lots of my high school friends and lots of my college friends. So we still have these remember when moments, very specific moments. There was someone around that I could tap into and say, hey, remember that day?